Welcome back to another episode of the MacRumors Show. This time, we're again at Apple Park, recording live, WWDC 2024. But last year when we did this, I had a couple of others who were not Hartley. Hartley was on a floating TV screen right in front of me. But this year, what's up, man? We can do this again. We don't get to do this a lot.
Yeah.
But this is like twice in 1 month.
It's very cool, and it's very cool to be able to do it here as well.
Yeah.
And kind of get a sense of the atmosphere and the reaction to all the announcements that we've had this week, because it's been a pretty big year for it. You know, last year we had Vision Pro, and this year we've had another kind of major central thing that is really going to shape how things go going forward for Apple.
Well, there was a ton, so let's just jump right into it. We had Vision OS 2 that kicked off, and two of the things that I wanted to talk about first, I wanted to get your thoughts, because you did actually get to use the Vision Pro this time.
I did.
Briefly. Did you try out the spatial photos when you did the little demo?
I did. They are very cool.
Okay.
I think that this new technology is really interesting because it's using Apple's depth separation technology, which really should enable you to go back through photos that you've taken maybe years ago and experience them in a new way. So you don't have to switch some toggle on or remember a new way of taking photos. It's just kind of a background thing, a little bit like the portrait mode that we got last year on the iPhone 15 Pro, where you don't really have to remember to toggle it on. So it's just a little background feature, super useful.
Yeah, so for those who are unaware, now you can take any photo that you've ever had in your library that wasn't taken with the special, spatial photo mode on, with the video. Well, that's the other thing we have to talk about. They didn't show video, so is that something that you think will be coming later, or did they touch on whether there was going to be video? The event goes so fast; it's hard to.
I think it would be a natural evolution
to go
eventually.
But yeah, any photo in your library can now be turned into, not just a regular 2D photo, but a spatial photo. And from what it looked like, it just looked incredible. So
I think the biggest thing with Vision OS 2 that I'm really looking forward to experiencing a little bit later this year is the ultra-wide mode for macOS.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of people were talking about wanting to have multiple Mac displays, and that always struck me as a little bit strange, because why would you need them? You don't need separation between different sort of windows. So the way to go is ultra-wide. And I think this really could be a way to make that mode of working far more useful.
You can do wide, you can do ultra wide. They said it was the equivalent of two 27-inch displays, but also higher resolution. The foveated rendering is now happening on the Mac device, so that should take a little bit of the processing power and pressure off of the Vision Pro and make things, because that was kind of my thing. It's I like working in this, but first off, I want to have more windows and have it a little bit wider, but also just it's just not quite the better way of working compared to just looking at your Mac's display in terms of the resolution and the crispness of the display. So now I'm excited to try that out, and then of course go ultra wide, push that thing back across my room
and kind of curving around you. It should be quite a dramatically different experience, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see if that helps make Vision Pro more of a productivity tool, that you actually want to jump out of your Mac's display and into using it in Vision Pro, just because it feels like such a different experience. But of course, you still have the support of macOS.
And then there were some new gestures that were announced for kind of bringing up the home screen and being able to check the time and your battery life and all things, so you don't have to look up at the sky.
Just basic quality of life improvements.
Yeah, and then the last thing is some partnerships with camera companies to make lenses and cameras to actually help you all shoot better spatial videos. And we joked, but I want to get the lens.
That is probably the most significant announcement for Vision Pro, because it will provide that content now.
Yeah.
That is the thing that I think everyone who has used Vision Pro and has experienced some of that content has said, this is great, but I want more of it.
Yeah.
And that isn't available right now. And now providing these tools, multiple different cameras now, both Canon and Blackmagic, and editing tools. Yeah. Now we can get so much content that is actually shot for Vision Pro and edited.
Yeah. The Blackmagic's going to be more for the, filmmakers and then you have Canon kind of making just a lens capable, making it capable for the everyday. So maybe I have to switch to Canon so that I can bring the MacRumors YouTube channel and
I think we
spatial
need you
video.
We need
immersive.
We need the Dan spatial experience.
No one needs that. And then, of course, the biggest announcement for those who are not in the U.S. and want to actually try Vision Pro, it'll be coming out to some other countries here in the next month-ish. I know there were 2 separate dates. When does it reach you all out there?
So that's in mid-July. China comes first and then Europe, which I'm very excited about.
Nice. You going to buy one? You just got the iPad. Now you're going to have to return it.
I actually think I will. It was a long flight coming out here.
Yeah.
That's actually what sold me when I was just thinking, this is what I need in my life right now.
All right, moving on. iOS 18. Huge. And we'll talk about all the intelligence. So we're going in the order. Apple did this for a reason. And also, I'm pretty sure they didn't mention the word they didn't mention AI one bit, machine. They didn't say any of that, which we had like a little bet going on over under. And then I think we, for those who are degenerate gamblers and were worried, when you got to the end, I think we hit our over. But all right, so I'm happy with iOS 18. I got the things that I wanted. How are you feeling about it?
I think it's really good. I was thinking about you through the event because it basically was your checklist.
I hope you were.
It was your checklist. The one where I really did think about you was changing the toggles on the lock screen, because you've been talking about that for years.
Just quick little mentions about it for years. I'm like, why can't we do that? Come on. It took, for those who are at the, or have not listened to, but will listen to the talk show, they kept stressing patience. I've been patient for a long time with that. And now you can change. So I did want to clarify something because I think I might have jumped the gun. You can't technically change it to any app. It's stuff in the control center. But
third-party developers can link into that to provide their own controls, just like they can in the new control center.
And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a shortcut thing that you can do there too at some point, if not already. So, I mean, you could do it, but it's not like you get your full app list and then you can just kind of jump into this.
It's just for something for developers to link into, which is really the way it should be.
There's so many options to choose from, and it's just great. I'll probably still keep the flashlight, maybe remove the camera for something else.
And of course, you can actually have those be different on different lock screens. Mm-hmm. So if you use different focus modes and you want to switch between those different controls, you can now do that. So it's a really versatile system.
Hey guys, just want to take a quick minute to let you know that this episode of the MacRumors Show is sponsored by Arena Club. Everyone remembers that one special card as a kid that got them into collecting. For me, it was my Pokemon cards, and on that fateful Christmas morning in the late 90s, early 2000s, I pulled a Charizard holographic, which if you don't know what that is, it was at the time one of the rarest cards you could possibly get, and I still have it to this day, so it was quite a Christmas gift. I still have all of the Pokemon cards, baseball, football cards that I've collected in the past and present, and collecting has come a long way since then. But now there's a new way to buy, sell, trade, and rip packs, and it's called Arena Club. Arena Club has taken repacks to another level, and Arena Club is introducing its new slab packs, which is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. I also kind of got the same feeling when I was opening my first slab pack on Arena Club in the same way, because it brought that same rush and excitement of the unknown and what card I was about to pull. I love that feeling, and I thought digital packs might take away and maybe lose its luster, but it definitely still holds all of that excitement. I also love the transparency that Arena Club offers to just see how rare it is to hit one of those good cards, get upfront grades, and just what's available inside of these packs. My favorite part is that you can make offers, send trades, and interact, which is always nice. You can also create your own personal showroom and start building your own collection today. So right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by going to arenaclub.com/Mac. That's arenaclub.com/Mac for 10% off your first purchase. Thanks, Arena Club, for sponsoring this episode.
Home screen customization can finally move things around, empty space. If you're an Android user and you're listening to this for some reason, just take 5. Like go walk away. Let us have a couple minutes here. You can finally do all of the things that people on Android have done for years. But how are you? What are you going to do to your home screen? Are you just going to keep it the same and watch other people do things to it?
No, I've already I've been testing out with the beta, and I've been really interested to see just how versatile this system is and how it's going to grow. I think that what I will ultimately end up switching on will be the larger icons.
Okay.
because I like that look, and I like not having the text, strangely. It's a bit of a cleaner appearance.
I thought about you when they did that. I'm like, oh, you said you didn't want the text, but you got to have large icons. So it's like, we're not quite there, but we're there.
And dark mode.
Oh, yeah. The icons are good.
I really like that appearance. But I also think that we should say the way that you can change the colors of the icons, I think it strikes the perfect balance. Because we've talked a lot about the success of icon packs. And you've said to me before, do you think Apple will ever do that? And I've always said no. And I don't think that would be the right direction for Apple to go in. But I think that this ability to just kind of tint the icons and to do it so easily as well. So if you change your mind, it's so quick to be able to roll that back or to change it. Just provides that level of personalization that means your iPhone home screen will look very personal.
Yeah.
But it doesn't go too far. It doesn't go too crazy, because I find a lot of the icon pack stuff a little bit too much.
It's still uniform, and that's, I think, ultimately what Apple wants, is that it still follows a set of rules. And developers can actually go in and change their icons to meet the standards for the dark mode, or if they want to play with it so that the tint shading stuff kind of like, I don't know, looks more optimized for it, they can do that, which is nice. And then the control center. We joked. We've been talking about that for years. That has been a strong rumor for years. And then what did I think last week I was like, oh, last minute, you think the control center is going to get something? And yeah, I mean, it got something. It's a pretty big redesign. I mean, you can now customize what's on it very easily. You can move things around. Developers can now add their own stuff from their own apps into the control center. You can resize, I don't know if I said that, you can just resize them easily. And then there's multiple pages. So now you have your control center main page. Then if you keep swiping up, you see media. Swipe up again, you see your smart home stuff. Swipe up again, it's all your connectivity. Brilliant. Didn't see that one coming, but I like it. What do you think?
I agree. I think it's a very simple system. But again, I think the game changer is the ability of third-party developers to link into this. I think this whole way that things have kind of been reimagined, where that is also related to the action button and to those lock screen toggles, makes it really easy for developers, but also it's just a familiar experience for the user, that they can just choose where they want those things to appear, because everyone's needs in the control center are different, right? Some people just leave orientation lock on all the time, or maybe you don't use focus modes very much and you don't need that to be front and center, but you do want your maybe playback controls to be really big. Everyone's needs are different in this area, so I think it's a really good improvement. I'm just really interested to see what developers are able to do. Am I going to be able to control my car in there?
You can. They showed the Ford Pass.
Okay.
So Ford already got like a shout out in that whole thing, and you can turn your car on and unlock the doors right from the control center.
Because you don't always want to go into an app to do that, but also a widget might be too much as well. So there is absolutely a place for just a little convenient button for so many of these kind of operations.
Yeah. All right, messages. Pretty big update. The one thing that they mentioned last that I was hoping for a little more clarification was RCS support, and they were just like, here's all this new stuff, and then RCS is coming, and then they just moved on, which is fine. But I did see on the website like kind of how it looks. There was one little screenshot. So at the bottom, when you type in, it says text message or iMessage. So now it'll say text message RCS, so you do know when that's happening. And then they showed like a nice photo and the audio message. And so, I think we're waiting on carriers.
RCS doesn't rock my world. I mean,
it does for me.
It does. I think it does for a lot of people. But for me, I'm so in the Apple ecosystem, I just don't think about it really.
But have you never texted a person with? Did you just not talk to people who have Android phones?
It is unusual. It's unusual.
Really? I thought, didn't someone say yesterday on stage that a lot of Europe has Android devices more than iPhones?
Well, WhatsApp is really popular, but when I'm using the Messages app, and I hate using WhatsApp, iMessage is always my platform of choice.
Well, but then if you do get RCS support and you do happen to meet a friend that has an Android phone, you can use the new tapbacks, the new scheduled text. I mean, I think that will happen no matter what, but you want the new tapbacks to show up because they look beautiful. And now with tapbacks, you can see some color for the pre-existing options. But if you swipe, every emoji
the emojis are the game changer, because stickers are good, but I don't always want to use a sticker. I don't always like to have a large sticker kind of popping onto that message, obscuring it, looking a little bit different each time. I wanted it to be a tapback for years, and I just choose an emoji. it's perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. But also even just some of the other animations and just providing that sort of richer experience. It's all stuff I will absolutely use on a daily basis.
What about scheduling text? By the way, the example in the keynote was for a birthday, and it's my mom's birthday, so happy birthday, Mom, today. And I might have scheduled a text out so that I didn't forget. I'll call her later. It's fine. I don't want to wake her up, but actually she's been awake for hours. But yeah, so I mean, scheduling text, that's something that was, I guess, the most requested feature, and that makes sense. Is that something that you think you'd be using quite a bit?
I think so. I think all of the iMessage improvements are really big this year, actually.
Yeah. Formatting is interesting. So now you have it because I always forget about the effects. And then when you do get one, it's like, you ever get that? You're in a group and someone sends one and you're like, oh my God, I forgot about those. And then everyone for the next 20 minutes is doing that. Well, now it's got a little formatting option and you can easily add underlining words. You can strike through words, bold, italics.
It's such a simple change.
But then all the effects are there too.
There's so many times when you're joking around with friends and you want to strike through stuff, you want to bold stuff.
Yeah. Just adds emphasis to the story that you might be telling.
It's just such a simple little thing, but it'll make a difference.
Speaking of difference, the Photos app. Ooh, that's a nice looking app. Completely redesigned. It just makes it more personal, I feel like. It just there's filtering options where you can get rid of the receipts and screenshots if you want to. I don't know how many times you're like, oh, let me find a photo, and someone's looking over your shoulder and they're just looking at screenshots and tons of receipts, and it doesn't give that nice, elegant experience of here's all my really good photos. And now Apple's kind of focusing in on, okay, here are the pictures that you probably want to see, and you can get to the other stuff if you want to, but here's all your trips, here's all of your memories, and it's just, you got your list of photos, but then if you keep scrolling up, and you'll see at the bottom that there's more of that For You kind of customization.
I think that is the most significant thing, because For You is really good and it's been getting better every year.
Yeah.
But I kind of never remember it's there, because whenever I'm in the Photos app, I'm in Library, and I don't always, unless I'm using the Photos widget, want to go over into For You. It's just not something that comes into my head. But now, kind of collecting it all together on that same page provides a way that content is just served to you in a way more natural manner. It makes sense for it to live alongside the library, because it's almost acting like that Photos widget and organizing memories in that way and making them just that little bit more accessible.
Just noticed from the keynote though, I need cooler looking friends. Everybody just looks beautiful and cool and hip, and I'm I don't look like that at all. So my photo library is not going to look as nice. But I've got kids. They're beautiful. Love them. I'm going to see a bunch of that. And that's the other thing, is that it's also going to be recommending groups of people, which is really cool. It's going to learn the photos that you have and be like, hey, you take a lot of pictures with these people, your pets. Here's that at the forefront. Here are those albums for you to go and skim through and find those pictures. I just think that's amazing. It looks nice. And I hope a lot of other apps kind of
explore this kind of design as well, because that's what happens with tabs. You kind of forget about stuff, and it takes up so much space, so you don't always need that kind of design. I'm really interested to see if other developers will kind of move in this direction.
It is available too. They can take that layout for the app, and it is available for developers to kind of utilize if they wanted to, and start designing apps that might have a similar kind of layout, things that you might need to scroll through a bunch. If it's another photo gallery related thing, they can do that. So I'm interested to see who actually takes advantage of that. All right, the last thing in iOS, which I guess they technically mostly talked about this in macOS, but I still feel like everyone kind of lumps it in with iOS, and that's the Passwords app. It actually happened. How do you feel about not having to go through the settings, layers of menus just to get to your passwords?
It's perfect. And I mean, I know that we're talking about it with iOS, but I tell you the one area it's going to make a massive difference to me is I still forgot, and I still forget on a regular basis, that on the Mac, it's not like the keychain app. So the amount of times over the past year that I have gone to Spotlight,
keychain?
I type in keychain, and then it boots me over to system settings. And every single time I think, why is it here? This is how it should be. And it's simple. It's not called keychain, it's passwords.
Yep.
And for a lot of people that are maybe not as tech savvy as us, that is just so accessible. It's so easy. You just type in passwords and everything is there.
And it's simple. It looks like the Reminders app. just for your passwords. You've got a little bucket of different sections and categories. You can generate two-factor codes easily. Like, I know you could do that before, but it was kind of buried in. Like, now it's just right there, and you even have a section like, here are all the passwords that you use two-factor codes in. You just tap the code. Like, that is so much better than having to, and I don't know. Also, did you know you can do the Siri thing where you just ask Siri to show you like your Netflix password or something?
No.
Yeah, I did a short on that. For those of you who don't know, try it. It's honestly, the passwords is great, like the app.
That's very useful.
That is much more useful. You just say, hey, show me, my Netflix password, and it'll bring it up. Face ID, authenticate, and then boom, you're in there. So for those of you who don't know, try it out. Okay, let's move on. Audio and home. We'll be brief on this one, but AirPods got some interesting updates. How do you feel about the hands-free Siri interactions?
I think it'll take some getting used to, but I know that one day I'm going to be in a situation and I'm going to remember that feature exists, and I will be grateful for it.
You might do it just on accident. Like, you might get a phone call from somebody and be like, oh, no, and then it'll just hang up, and you're like, oh, well, it did it for you. You didn't have to think about whether you should answer that phone or not. And then you're going to get voice isolation, which will be nice, especially for those who, I don't know, maybe take a lot of phone calls outside, and it might be, super loud or whatever. But the biggest thing, it's not quite the Amazon feature that I was looking for, but it's another one that I do really enjoy. If you're ever on like Prime Video app and you're watching something and you see that there's a, if I don't know what you do, you just kind of bring up the menu, and at the bottom it'll say who's in that scene. Well, Apple takes it, makes it better one step further. It's available on all your devices, even if you're using the remote. It's called Insight. If you're using the remote or your phone as a remote, you can see who it is. But then it shows you the song that's playing, and you can add it directly to your Apple Music. Just one more feature that makes me want to switch over to Apple Music full time.
I am a big listener of like movie and TV soundtracks.
Yeah. So that's huge.
I love listening to them while I work during the day. It's just great background music. And so the ability to just, when I'm listening to something and I think, oh, I kind of like this song, I can just go into Insight, add it straight to my Apple Music library. Really a seamless experience. I wonder if third-party developers are going to ultimately be able to take advantage of this for their streaming apps, so we can kind of unify things, because that's what the TV app is trying to get to, is put everything in one place. And I think that's when the TV app is really at its best. So I'd really like to see that happen.
WatchOS 11. A lot of these had like pretty short, because Apple also didn't really give it a lot of stage time, so we have to quickly move on. But like the training load feature for tracking workout intensity is pretty cool if you're like super into weightlifting, huge athlete like me. I mean, this is obviously catered towards myself. The Vitals app is cool. You can monitor your key health metrics with tailored notifications. That's nice to kind of see where you're at in just your overall health and what's going on. But the one thing that stuck out to me is being able to customize like the activity rings and pause it.
That is one that we've been talking about for years as well. So I'm really happy with that.
Yeah.
Because why, I don't want to lose my streak or whatever. Like if you get ill, that's not your fault. I shouldn't be punished by my rings for that.
And you shouldn't be doing, I think a lot of people will say that you probably shouldn't be doing like intense workouts that you need to log every day.
Exactly. And
so it's not fair.
Rest days are really important.
Yeah.
And not every workout regime will require the same number of minutes or calories every day.
I'm just really happy that when I take my 6-month rest day, I won't lose my streak. I'll just pick up right where I left off, every January 1. Yeah, so that is some of the improvements for WatchOS, iPadOS. All right, let's go. Here we go. We got the calculator app. Everybody can calm down. But it's probably one of the coolest things, honestly, on iPadOS. How did you feel about the calculator app?
I think that Apple's approach, it was really clear that this was happening when Apple brought the Weather app to the iPad. They didn't just want to bring a blown-up version of the Weather app for iPhone. They redesigned that app and provided all of this extra information that actually takes advantage of that display. And that's effectively what they've also done with the Calculator app. And just some of the technology here, the way that it learns your handwriting, if you're using the Apple Pencil, and will kind of recreate the answers to what you're handwriting in your own handwriting. It's very impressive.
I mean, the math notes thing is insane because it's a simple concept, but like, why haven't we been there already? Like, I wish I was in college again and I was able to take notes and be able to write out with my chicken scratch and have my notes be improved and then be able to have equations just automatically solved for me when I'm writing it out is just a game changer.
And I think it's actually really important to note with this that while this is a cross-platform app, so you can use this now on the Mac, you can use this on the iPhone. A lot of people talk about where does the iPad sit with the Mac and should the iPad ultimately run macOS? I think that actually the calculator app on iPad is the perfect example of the iPad being the iPad and doing its own thing. Because
I'm getting talked into this, I know. And also we heard last night basically that it's just not going to happen, so stop asking kind of thing.
But it doesn't need to happen, and I think this proves it, because that experience, even if the Apple Pencil worked on the Mac, it's not going to be the same as actually using your own handwriting in such a natural way on something that is, it's getting nearly to be as thin as a sheet of paper. It's just, it's its own thing, and this really proves it.
A little disappointed that there wasn't a lot of there was no stage manager, improvements, at least not what was announced. Have you seen anything in, the list of other things that might be coming to iPadOS?
No, I don't think there's multitasking improvements this year. I think that, we've had a lot of announcements this year. I don't think Apple's done with the iPad. I think when we look at this hardware that we've just received with the M4 iPad Pro, Apple is all in on the iPad. So we'll get there.
I do like the new floating tab bars.
Yes.
Does make it much easier, much nicer. It just looks nice. And then if you wanted the full sidebar, you can jump into that too. But sometimes you don't always need that. You just need, and you can custom. Apple's getting really into the whole customization thing. They went from like a whole hard no to, okay, we'll give you a little bit, to now we're like, hey, you just customize whatever you want.
But it's got to be done in the right way. It's got to be tasteful.
Yeah.
And I think that Apple's striking the balance really well with that.
All right, macOS Sequoia. This is my favorite feature, by the way, of the entire event.
I agree with you. I know what you're going to say.
iPhone. So it's a continuity feature, and it's iPhone mirroring. Basically, I can take my phone in my hand right now, throw it in my bag, and I can get to my desk, start working. And if I see a notification pop through from an app that's not on my Mac, it's from my iPhone. And I can interact with that notification, and it brings up a display of your phone, and you can type on your keyboard, use your mouse to navigate. You could control your entire phone. I will never need to use my phone at work again.
I think this is huge.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the most significant announcement, actually, in terms of things that users are going to be able to get their hands on later this year. Just simply because right now, I don't know about you, but if your iPhone's on your desk, you can slip into a little bit of doom scrolling or whatever when you're trying to concentrate on work.
Constantly.
But if you can get that on the same display, it's going to keep you more focused.
You might be able to stop looking at TikTok or Twitter or whatever.
But it just stops that kind of context switching. So even for other things like banking apps that banks may not provide a Mac version of that app, even if they could now with Apple Silicon, they absolutely could. It doesn't matter now because it's all been considered so well in the way that the trackpad can interact naturally with gestures. It should be a really seamless experience. And we've been talking about how we wanted kind of universal notifications for years.
That's basically it.
And now we've got there.
Yeah.
And I think this is such a good way to do it, because if they had just given us iPhone notifications on the Mac, you would still have had to have gone and reached for your iPhone. It would have been missing this piece.
Yeah, we didn't think about this part. I was like, give me all my notifications. And I would have been so annoyed that I probably would have turned it off. At least now I can interact with it. But again, you're probably going to get annoyed, because that was the main complaint that a lot of people have said. It's like, well, now I'm going to be having constant notifications from, is it smart enough to not give you double notifications is one. Go ahead.
Well, I think this is actually where Apple Intelligence ultimately comes in with notification management.
Okay, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But at this time, we didn't know. So as we're watching the keynote, no one said the word AI or any kind of artificial intelligence anything. So we're just like, okay, well, that's sweet. And I'm just really excited. And also, by the way, your phone does nothing during that time when you're using it.
And you can still keep it in standby mode. I'm a big standby mode user, so I'm really happy with that.
I am curious what the battery toll is going to be on this, but at least you can charge it.
Standby mode's the answer.
Yep.
Hey guys, just want to take a quick break to let you know that this episode of the MacRumors Show is also sponsored by Notion. In case you haven't noticed by now, the entire theme of WWDC and this week's episode is AI and Apple's implementation of AI. But Notion has already been adding its own Notion AI for quite some time now, and it's absolutely fantastic at helping me get things done faster and more efficient. Notion is the AI-powered workspace where the everyday everything takes care of itself. Meetings have summaries, docs find themselves, and every question has an answer. We use Notion here at MacRumors to organize tasks across different editorial departments. There's spots for media, graphics, the podcast, my videos. I have dedicated spots for YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, just trying to keep everything focused. You name it, it's all inside of Notion. We are using Notion to keep track of it all, and we definitely rely on it. I recently got done working on a freelance project, and that company was also using Notion to provide feedback and tasks for me, and it was honestly just great and seamless because I already knew how to use it. But even a seamless experience can be had if you're not a part of that workspace. Notion is for everyone, whether you're a Fortune 500 company or a freelance designer starting anew. So I want everyone to do me a favor and try Notion for free when you go to notion.com/macrumors. That's all lowercase letters, notion.com/macrumors, and start turning ideas into action. And when you use our link, you're supporting our show, and it means a lot to us. That's notion.com/macrumors. Thanks, Notion, for sponsoring this episode.
Safari got some of the, so we were expecting like a summarize feature, and now it's kind of baked into the highlight stuff, which is really cool. Like it highlights people, places, media, you name it, like something interesting on the website. And then you can click on the reader icon that's been kind of redesigned there, and it'll give you a TLDR of the article. And then you can choose to listen to the article or read the article if you want to. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I've been
Do you use Safari?
Yes, I do.
Okay, because I heard a couple people today were like, I don't use Safari. I'm like, wait, what?
I cannot stand other browsers. I feel very strongly about this.
Okay.
I also think that just these tools, like I'm a big user of reading mode, which has been available for so long. So I really like those kinds of features because I'm the sort of person that when I'm on a web page, I will go up and click on extensions and click on other utilities. So I'm happy with that. Also, the new the media player.
I was just
really
going to say,
well.
I was just going to say, picture in picture.
Yeah.
No, you got. Go ahead. You can talk about it.
No, it just looks really nice. It's just the way it kind of fades out the background, but you don't always want full screen. Just a nice little improvement.
All right, before we get into Apple Intelligence, I've skipped over gaming on every single one. Gaming got some stuff. Okay, we got game modes for your iPhone. We have the gaming portal toolkit 2, so there should be some more compatibility. The new Assassin's Creed is going to be launching soon. I think you can try it out now for a few hours and then it'll unlock. But there's going to be some bigger games and titles coming, which is always great. But let's move on to the, basically the Vision Pro of this year, which is Apple Intelligence. First off, love the name. Just makes sense. How do you feel about the way Apple introduced this portion of AI for the platforms?
I think it was perfectly explained, actually, because the key thing is that I think across the industry, a lot of AI stuff is very cool. Think of things like, I don't know, the Rabbit R1 or the AI pin or these other things that they're cool, but you're not selling me on this day-to-day use. How is this actually going to help me? Why do I want a pin that's projecting something onto my hand? It doesn't do anything for me. And the way that Apple is focusing on really simple stuff, like it's going to help my grandma understand if she doesn't know how to do something on her iPhone because she can just ask Siri now. It's just simple, easy stuff.
I'm changing my favorite feature, by the way. It's that one. I'm constant texts and phone calls like, hey, how do you do this? Now I'm just going to be like, hey, just ask Siri. It'll tell you, and I'll walk you through. And also, we didn't mention an iPad. I don't know if this is just an iPadOS feature, but they showcase it there. I feel like it can work on the phone, but you can control other people's devices too.
Yes.
Like, that's huge for this specific type of people who role play as Apple support for their family members. Like, this is a good thing. But yeah, it's making Siri just feel like it's going to be so much better.
And it's the fact that it's personal. I think that's the key here. That really makes Apple's approach to AI different. We've been speculating about what Apple's AI strategy would be and how would they go about kind of forging their own path. And I think it just makes perfect sense because our lives live on our iPhones. All of that context is only there, really. No other third-party service is going to have anywhere near that amount of information. And I wouldn't trust a lot of companies with that information either. So the ability to actually kind of tie all of that together using artificial intelligence, but then crucially also that you can actually link into other services if you want to as well. So it's the best of both, because you can trust Apple with your personal context and use that on device. But then if you want to, you can go and use ChatGPT or whatever else it may be. Very, very powerful.
Yeah, the privacy thing was stressed from the beginning and then closed off with, like, we have the private cloud compute, like, this is all processed on device. All of the Apple intelligence stuff is processed on device. None of that's being stored anywhere. And if you're somebody who's really worried about that, maybe you're a tech CEO, billionaire, or somebody who's just frantic about this for some reason, there's a little more context that you need to know. And so that's one of the things that I think is super important to highlight. And then if you want to get a little risky, which is still not nearly as much of a risk as you really think of it when you hear the actual integration with ChatGPT and OpenAI, Siri will be able to, if you send it a prompt and it can't do what you want it to do or doesn't have that info, it can then reach out to, as of right now, ChatGPT, and it'll alert you. First off, it's not on by default. It's something that you'll have to set up the first time it gets to that point. And then every single time you ask it something, it's going to say, do you want us to take you to and use ChatGPT for this? If you're uploading a photo and you want, recommendations on where the plants should go or whatever, it'll ask every single time. So that's up to you. And it's not storing that data either. ChatGPT has no idea of your IP and who you are and what you're doing, unless you link your Plus account with Chat. And then, if you're all in on it.
But you've got the versatility to do that if you want to.
Sure.
If that
you could do that now.
Yeah. But if that wasn't available, people would want it. I feel like what has been laid out here, the kind of AI proposition here, has really kind of given everything that you could really want. I don't know what more you could want from this, because you've got that personal context, you've got that privacy, and even if you want to use ChatGPT, it's free, it's not logged, and if you want to sign into your ChatGPT account with OpenAI, you can do that as well.
Yeah. So again, you can do that now. You can download the app and do it now.
You can do everything you want to do with this.
Yeah.
So I think it's absolutely huge.
Yeah. And apparently there might be other people involved, other companies. So Google, Gemini could be another option if you don't want to use ChatGPT.
Long term, that's got to be the approach here. And I think what Apple is doing and providing the kind of framework where long term other systems can kind of plug into this. They can plug into Apple Intelligence. If you want it to do so with a specific set of knowledge, with a specific model, you have the ability to do that. So it's kind of becoming its own OS, its own system within a system.
Yeah. So let's go through some of the features and some of the new generative stuff too. What do you want to start with? Image Playground, because it's fun? That and the Genmoji. Which one do you want to go with? I'll let you choose.
I think the Genmoji is the thing that I'm actually going to use most often.
Yeah. I am curious because we've had this conversation. We got a little bit of an age difference. I've been learning that some emojis tell your age, apparently. It's so I want to know, when I use a generative emoji, is that going to be like another silo that I'm in where it's like, nah, the older millennials are going to be the ones who are using the crying, laughing instead of the sideways crying, laughing. That's the cool way to do it. Or is that going to be, maybe because there's so many different variations and options, I don't have to worry about that.
It's going to be really interesting to see the kind of cultural impact of this stuff as well, because there's so much opportunity, and to really see how ordinary users engage with that, and the fact that maybe this will actually be preferred to using normal emojis because it's just that bit more personal. When you see emojis now, everything obviously looks the same because it's a standardized thing across the industry. But wouldn't it be more fun if when you receive an emoji, it's unique?
Yeah. I think it was like an alligator riding a surfboard. I don't know what I would use that for, but it's cool.
Even like a unique laughing emoji that you've never seen before, it will just make that message just a little bit more engaging.
Yeah, and then you can't tell the person's age. Yeah. That's a unique one. Never seen it before. It could be anything.
I really upset you with that comment, didn't I, Dan?
I just, I spend a week with you guys, and you're all like, "Oh, that's the wrong emoji." I'm like, "What? Since when?" It's involved on my phone. Why can't everyone uses it?
Okay.
Whatever. Well, okay. What about the image playground? How about that?
Yeah, that's also really interesting.
Yeah.
I think that there's many situations when you're kind of playing around. I mean, think of stuff like with Animojis and Memojis years ago when people just loved engaging with that. This is kind of that the next evolution of that.
It reminds me of like Bitmoji on Snapchat or whatever.
Yeah.
But like infinite possibilities.
But also, like, I think of someone like me in Notes. I'm a big Apple Notes user, and I would love to be able to make my notes a little bit more visually engaging.
Yeah.
But I'm not an illustrator. I've got an Apple Pencil. I could not draw much more than like a stick person.
But use Magic Wand.
Now, I can create these illustrations right there in my notes very easily. And just make my notes just so much richer and more interesting to engage with.
I like that it's not going to be photorealistic because that's creepy and weird, and I don't want that. And so you have a couple of different options. There's animation, illustration, and sketch, I believe, are the three. So you can choose between those, and then you just kind of feed it some prompts, and there you go. You can send. Maybe it'll be cool to send those instead of emojis. I don't know. So those are some of the two like generative, like image related things that you can do. But what about like the actual features with kind of writing and so there's rewrite, there's the smart replies and mail, like all of those features. Those are the more useful ones that we're going to use every day.
Emails is huge.
Yeah, proofreading your emails is huge.
It's going to be really useful. But the thing that I am most interested in above all else with Apple Intelligence that I can't wait to try out is the fact that it will understand what's on your screen and it will take actions based on that. So one of the examples we were given is where maybe you receive a message with an address in. You can now summon Siri and you can say, add this to the contact card for this person. And it will do that. And it will do that for you on screen, which is... That's so useful. And if I can do that elsewhere, if I can do that when I'm in the music app, if I can do that in my third-party apps as well, that's massive. And if it can understand all of this context and tie everything together, I'm going to be using Siri so much more.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be, honestly, the butt of the joke anymore. I think it's kind of progressed into something like, oh, this is actually really useful. And how many times have you said a command to Siri and you're like, you said the wrong word and you're like, no, wait. And then it's like, I don't understand what you said because you're screaming at me because you messed up. But now you can kind of take a minute, go back and say in the same sentence, like, send me a picture of a dog, but you meant to say cat. You can redo that and it'll send and know what you mean. It's just much more of a natural, not a person, but it feels like it's much more of like a natural conversation you're having just, with your phone or your Mac.
And I think the other major thing with Apple Intelligence is the way that app intents are built in. So right now, when Apple Intelligence debuts, already loads of the third-party apps are going to be able to take actions based on that, because this is what has been sort of maturing in the Shortcuts app for years at this point. So already all of those Shortcuts actions are going to be accessible, which is it's going to make it so much easier for developers because they're already going to have a basis to start from. It's a familiar API. I think that is the thing that is going to make Apple Intelligence uniquely useful.
One of the things that I honestly didn't think I'd be super interested in was the Apple Intelligence inside of like developer tools with Xcode and stuff, and being able to have code completion was one of the features where you just you just need to learn one word for the string of code. You learn that one word and then all the other options. So in the demo that I saw, it was like making a restaurant app and starting with the menu. And it was so easy. I mean, in the 10 minutes that they showed me, like we had a full menu with the item name, the price, the calories, and the calories were color coded, green, yellow, and red. So high calories, medium, low, whatever. And all of that was all from code completion and basically just starting off the sentence, and then it knows what you're doing, and by just the contextual awareness of everything and Apple Intelligence, it just was able to boom, like this is what you want. And that was created. And imagine someone like me doing that. Sure, that's cool, but like imagine a real professional who is able to get in there and actually make, like, it's going to make their life so much easier.
And this to me is where artificial intelligence is actually at its best, is when it's kind of being used as a tool to enhance your creativity. So you have to have that starting point, but it's just helping you get to your destination faster. And with fewer mistakes, you're not going to have typos in your code when it's being auto-completed for you. So It's very, very impressive. And of course, whether you're writing a document or you're studying or you're a developer or whatever it may be, there's different ways in which Apple Intelligence is actually going to be useful to you. But crucially, it's not just this professional tool, because it's in Siri. So on a daily basis, when you wanted to control your home accessories or your task manager, in my case, or your music library, or just things on a day-to-day basis, you can link all that stuff together. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to go to my task manager and I can go to Siri and I can say, can you move this task over into my calendar at 3 o'clock next week, and then delete the task?
Yeah.
And now that's possible. That's massive. And of course, I will be able to do this on multiple devices as well, because Apple Intelligence is coming not only to the iPhone, but also to the Mac, where I think that is going to be very interesting to see how useful that is in a desktop context. Because I think Apple really stressed to show how useful it is on the go, on your iPhone, in those situations. But there's so many use cases here with these different experiences that you get across the iPhone, the iPad, and the Mac.
Yeah, couldn't say it better myself. So I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
We wrap up here. Kind of putting you on the spot just a little bit.
Okay.
You know I love to do that. What was your favorite thing that's not Apple Intelligence related? Favorite just feature that we're in betas right now that you can use?
Well, I think that it would have to be iPhone mirroring. But since we've already talked about that, I'm going to mention just one tiny little feature that...
Can I guess?
Okay.
Reminders in calendar.
Yes.
God, I know you so well.
Yes. It just makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Because if you have a reminder at a certain time, that absolutely should appear in the app, which revolves around time and dates. Simple, should have been there. Now we've got it.
I don't know if they said that on stage, because I might have missed it. It's possible. Or not on stage.
It was mentioned briefly, but there's always so much to track into the
And
app.
I'm like social mediaing at the time, so like I missed some things, okay? But I had a little demo experience, and I was like, that's the best thing. They showed me the calendar, and the reminders were synced up. There's different views, which is great. And you can have your reminders, maybe you have it up at the top. It's not time oriented, but then you're like, oh, I have some time now to do this task, or like looking at my day, I think I can fit you just drag it and drop it into a time, and then all of a sudden that's time based now, and you'll get the notifications like you need it. Go ahead.
One day we'll do a productivity episode. We'll discuss this single feature for like an hour.
Yeah, maybe not this single feature for an hour, but we can give it some real time.
Okay.
Okay. So that was what? Okay, what was the one thing that was rumored that didn't happen, that you're a little bit sad about?
Well, I'm a big Apple Music fan, and I was really happy when we got crossfade a couple of years ago. Maybe I don't think that was even. Maybe was it last
year? Yeah.
And I was really hoping for a little bit more with that. Something that used a sort of spatial audio to separate tracks. I know you really like that feature in Logic, where it separates
the stem splitter.
Yeah, and I think that there is absolutely the capacity to do that with crossfade to get these kind of more seamless transitions. So. Maybe next year.
I'm going to give one special shout out to a feature that I think it's like it's becoming a norm now over the last 2 WWDCs, where there's just so much to talk about that Apple just doesn't have time for some of these. So we got a few accessibility features, like a couple weeks before, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't get a chance to dive into those, but one of you all told me about the motion sickness thing.
Yeah.
And I have been using that in the back of Ubers all week.
Everyone needs to know about that feature.
And I'm no longer sick when it's amazing. It just puts little dots on your phone, and then it just moves with the orientation that you're moving in. But those little dots,
it's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, it really is. But
just turn it on.
It's in Control Center. You got to go in accessibility, motion, and then it's like show vehicle something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think that'll get you in the right spot. And then you can enable it in Control Center. And I have been doing that all week, and I'm no longer feeling ill in the back of the car, which is amazing.
But like all of these accessibility features are so cool. Apple Music haptics, eye tracking on the iPad.
Maybe that's what we need to do. We need to do an entire accessibility. And I feel like some people would genuinely appreciate that. We need to do like an accessibility deep dive of all the things that you can do.
Accessibility is an area
that's useful for everyone.
So many interesting features come out. Think of things like ultimately what led to double tap on the Apple Watch.
Yeah.
That started effectively as an accessibility feature on the Apple Watch. watch. And I remember when we were first seeing that feature come out, and it was so interesting.
Yeah.
Just very, very impressive.
So that's mine. Man, I put you on the spot, and I can't even come up with one that I'm disappointed that didn't happen.
It's because you've got everything. You got everything.
I did get everything I wanted. I'm a spoiled little boy in this.
You love some customization, and you got it this year.
Yeah. I mean, I guess icon packs is never going to happen.
No, it's not. You don't need icon packs, Dan.
I have a little Android in me like that does like some of those things, and I don't know. But you're right. We don't need it.
I think this is the best balance, and I'm really interested to see the home screens of my friends. I feel like this is something a little bit like with widgets where it really captured everyone's imagination. This is going to happen again now later this year when we're going to see on social media everyone actually trying this stuff out for the first time with home screens that look wildly different, but not too much.
Yeah,
and I really appreciate that, and it's just it's easy to engage with, which is so important. No one wants to be going into the Shortcuts app and setting up stuff for every single app. I've got no time for that.
That's fair. Now, where do you think we're headed with future, iterations of what we have? Like, what is the thing that you're looking forward to getting? Because a lot of this stuff, by the way, you can get the public beta next month. You can get the developer beta now if you're registered for all of that. But there's not everything that we've talked about today is in there. There's a lot of stuff that's coming later in the year. One of the things that I'm sad about that's not in there is the mail app. Like, it's got a pretty good redesign.
The categories.
Yeah, and that's apparently based off of some Apple Intelligence stuff. So it's not there yet. But what did you get a chance to kind of dive into that a little bit more?
I think that's a really interesting feature because it's so hard to manage the influx of mail. And I think that using artificial intelligence is the way to make mail just stop the overwhelm with mail.
It seems simple. Just put them in the categories. And by the way, if you feel like Apple got it wrong, you can go ahead and manually fix that, and then it'll intelligently learn that that's not where that's supposed to go. And of course, if you're someone who, just wants to see all of your mail just there, you can still do that. That's for me what I'm excited for. Like those little things. Like, what are you looking forward to testing out in the future? Because you can't do it right now.
The ultra wide mode on Vision Pro.
Okay.
That's
you got to get a Vision Pro first, there, bud.
I know. I've talked myself into it at this point. It's happening next month. And I think a lot of people in Europe and around the rest of the world are going to be really interested in that because everyone in the US, you've been enjoying it for months, but we haven't had our moment in the sun yet. So
I'll let you shine. I'll let you shine. We could do a whole episode on your thoughts on it.
We should.
Yeah.
And especially with Vision OS 2, because I feel like with these gestures, with this new ultra wide mode. It was kind of a comparatively small update compared to everything else, but it's such early days for this platform. But that makes it so interesting to see how it's going to grow.
How many new episode ideas have we come up with since sitting here?
A lot.
No one's written. No, I've not written this down.
I hear it's being recorded.
I guess we'll be able to remember it. Yeah. It'll be archived somewhere. But anything else before we jump off here?
Well, what would you say was your favorite platform overall update? Would it be iOS 18?
I mean, it's tough because in theory, that one kind of got the most stuff, but we also fail to remember the things that we brushed through with, iPadOS and macOS. Most of the things we talked about in iOS is also trickling down.
That's a very good point.
Parities, it's just going to be feature parity throughout is going to be a thing. So it's not like, iPadOS is a small update.
Yeah.
macOS Sequoia, by the way, love the name. I think that was one of my picks. It was that and Mammoth. I'm not like a prophet or anything, but we got that one right. macOS Sequoia, I think it's going to be that one, honestly, because it carries my favorite feature that I'm looking forward to trying. And it's going to get all of the, quality of life improvements that we got with iOS 18 and some of the other things that I'm just looking forward to. And then, of course, Apple Intelligence. I'm on my Mac during the work week a lot, and being able to, use those features and make my life hopefully easier and better when working is that's for me right there.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's the same for me. Even other features like currency conversion in Calculator. I'm going to be using that on the Mac.
Are you? Oh, well, I guess you could have used it this week.
Yeah. So it's I think macOS. macOS is the one that shines for me this year, even though, of course, you do get that feature parity, which we kind of take for granted now. That wasn't always the case in previous years, but now I feel like Apple's got so in step with providing these features across every platform pretty much. And think of things like the home screen customization on both iPhone and on iPad. And that means that you're not going to find it jarring if you have everything in dark mode on your iPhone. You can also do that on your iPad.
I do like that we don't have to wait a year for those things, because generally, it's been you'd have to wait a year for some of those things. I think with widgets, it didn't come right away.
It's sped up over the years. And I think that Apple's approach, where they kind of show off where those features shine best, a little bit like the calculator on iPad, they could have shown that off on the iPhone.
Yeah.
But to focus in and show us on each platform, but then you can go and engage with them in different ways. So if there is a feature that you're interested in on the iPhone, like that's debuted on the iPhone, like the new tapbacks, you can go ahead and do that on the Mac, and it will feel a little bit different.
Yeah.
So that's always a fun part of getting to use the new operating systems.
So obviously, you can tell we're all really excited. And of course, as usual, I want to hear from all of you out there. Let us know in the comments from YouTube. Send us an email if you want to. Hit us up on all the platforms. Let us know what your favorite thing about WWDC was. God, I still can't even, there's just too much to process. But let us know. And huge shout out to Apple for allowing us to record in this space once again. We always appreciate it. And shout out to the crew for doing an amazing job and, allowing us to spew out nonsense for an hour. We genuinely thank you. And we'll catch everybody in the next episode.